This is Grassroots Radio Colorado on KLZ 560.
Welcome back to Grassroots Radio Colorado. This is Chris Cook. If you didn't pick up on that, that was Depeche Mode, People Are People. So why should it be that you and I get along so awfully? It's the first line of that song. So, I mean, we're talking to Corey and Andy Pate. This is Chris Cook, and I've got Stacey Petty co-hosting with me today. It's like a dinner party. You have to make sure everybody's, We're talking about how to reach people who, they're not necessarily thinking about the economic argument. They're not necessarily receptive to our charts and graphs and the things that we conservatives usually head off with. I know that I am guilty of that. As Stacey, as you pointed out, that's my language. Mm-hmm. I speak accounting. Mm-hmm. So, sue me. That's what I do. But... Pardon?
We'll avoid the suing part.
That would be great.
Well, that's why I'm having to constantly page through this little translation thing as you talk. It's been hard keeping up.
You should see me in front of a jury. So, so this is a situation where you're dealing with, you might be dealing with somebody on Facebook. You might, be running it. I mean, you could run into somebody anywhere. But the situation that is coming to mind, especially as we're talking specifically about what we've been talking about, raising the minimum wage, trying to get people to see what a detrimental effect that will have on their own life if we were to raise the minimum wage like Seattle did to $15 an hour, something like that. The situation that's occurring in my brain is a conversation between an employer and an employee who feels entitled to come up to $15 an hour because obviously you're making so much money, that kind of thing. Is this another situation where you would see using this kind of an approach?
Yeah, definitely. I think there are some points that people don't think about. It sounds great to just give someone $15 an hour and make a living wage. That's what we hear all of the time. But there's a few things that maybe they haven't quite thought through. And so sometimes I think it's a good idea to start asking them questions. Okay, so you believe that. Why? Tell me why. Because one thing we do as conservatives is we feel like we have to pull out our checklists. We've been preparing all week for these types of questions and these types of discussions, and we have to go off and check every point off of our list. And by the time we're done, the person is either glassy-eyed or they have the deer in the headlights look and they're running away screaming.
Pretty much, yeah.
So in order to avoid that, because I know I can do that, I get excited and I start talking, and then all of a sudden I realize I lost my audience 30 minutes ago. One thing I like to do is I like to ask them questions. I like to ask them, well, why do you feel that way? Why do you think that? Mm-hmm. Have you thought about this? Well, have you thought about that? So let's say that you've been working at this company for a year and a half. You started at $12 an hour, and you've worked so hard. You've had the highest sales of the whole entire staff, and you got a $1 an hour raise.
Okay,
but now we're going to raise the minimum wage, and it's going to be $15 an hour. Which means that you just worked in a year and a half. You didn't even make it up to $15 an hour yet. But these new people who are being hired, they're going to start higher than you were.
Right.
How do you feel about that?
How hard you worked, and yeah.
That's one way to kind of catch them off guard and get them to think.
Okay.
Because that's ultimately what you're trying to do. You're trying to build a relationship and get them to think a little bit differently.
Right. Well, another thing is always put them in the situation of the boss. Well, if you were the boss, what would you think?
Okay.
Take them outside of themselves. Young people love this. They love stepping outside themselves. Okay, if you were the boss, what would you think? Well, it'd be okay because all my competitors have to pay $15 an hour too. And really? Okay, tell me this. Wouldn't you have to charge more though to recoup it? Okay, so let's say everybody's having to pay $15 an hour for everything in this city. Let's make it the state. Okay. Mm-hmm. Are things going to cost the same?
No.
Or are they going to jump way high? That's why what we call a living wage has to keep being higher, because we keep raising the base. So guess what? It's not helping you. It's just making everything more expensive. So the money goes right back out. And, oh, gee golly, government's raking it in off higher tax revenues from you making more.
Right.
That's why they love it.
Sure. Yeah. But then again, I think I've watched them. I've actually watched the gears snap back into place that corporations are evil and
right.
they ought to be taking this out of their profits, not raising prices and passing it on to me.
Right.
That's their approach. And so, it seems sitting here right now, and maybe I should go out and try to engage in a few of these conversations before I say this, but it seems like a never-ending chain. I mean, is there a recovery point here, or?
Well, once again, you're building a relationship. You're not going to win them over on every single point in one conversation.
Okay.
Sometimes it takes a while. Sometimes it takes months. Sometimes it takes years. But what you're doing is you're keeping an open dialogue there. And by having that relationship, you're building trust. And so then when they start to think about things or they come back at you with a point, and also you don't always have to have all the answers. It's
I
okay.
Don't?
No, you don't.
Are you sure?
I'm dead sure. There are many times when I've had to say, you know what? I'm not sure. Let me look into that and I'll get back to you.
Yeah.
And you know what else? That kind of builds respect too, because then they realize that you're not just being a know-it-all blowhard.
Right.
You're willing to say, I don't know.
And I would say that's usually a good time when the $10 million plays pretty well, because I'll look at them and I'll just, once again, I'm going to connect with them. You've got $10 and you want people competing for that. Look, millionaires don't have to keep their money here. They don't have to keep it in Seattle. They don't have to keep it in Washington. They don't have to keep it in the United States.
Right.
They are free. Do you want to take away their freedom? Are you looking for a Nazi state? At that point, you can actually throw the Nazi word out. You can actually throw it out and just say, are you looking...
Godwin, yeah.
Exactly. And you can say, look, what do you want? Do you want to totally control others? Because what it really comes down to is this. You're trying to control the charity of others. The reason you want them to pay more is you don't believe they give enough to help people in need.
Right.
And you want them to give more, and you want to make them do it. One way is raising the minimum wage ludicrously. Another way is raising their tax percentage that they pay, and so forth, and so on. You're trying to control the charity of others. Do you want to do that? Are you comfortable with that? I mean, do you really want that, or are you doing it because you feel you got to?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, man. Yeah, I have a lot of training to go. I've been a talk show host now for a while, and it's really hard for me to get out of that, to just yell at them mindset. So I really appreciate you guys coming in and doing this and to spend the time with us. Let's talk about the Party of Choice a little bit.
Okay.
And so you guys founded this for this purpose, to develop this messaging, to develop this training, to go ahead.
Right. Well, the whole idea came about because we had a number of people come to us saying, I know what I believe, but I don't know how to explain it very well. And because Andy's a former leftist who's a very conservative person now, he has a really unique way of explaining things. And so I can't tell you how many people came to him and said, would you go talk to my friend for me?
Yeah.
And we're like, well, we're only two people here. Andy's only one person. We can't be everywhere. So what if we teach you what to say instead? And so we had a few practice trainings, and they seemed to go well, and then we started up our website and started the organization, and it's just kind of grown from there.
I love it. I love it. And it's just, I love how things just sort of organically start with, would you please come argue this point for me, because I have no idea how to do it.
I'm not exaggerating. That really happened.
Oh, I'm sure. And bottom line, it seems to me that this is just training in empathic communication. I mean, it's just really understanding where the other person is coming from and not being a jerk.
Well, and it's
right?
in addition, yeah, that's a big part of it, because what you're doing is you're changing their perception. Remember, when we started talking about this today, we said society views us as the bad guys. Mm-hmm. Everything is stacked against us. That's why there's a wall between us. That's why we're beating our head against it. So this is a way that we have been practicing and trying and testing to see if we can turn conservatives into the good guys. And from our experience, it has been working. And from the people that we've spoken to who have been applying these principles, they're coming back and saying, wow, this is really working. Guess what I got to say on Facebook today. So that's been really fun.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
One thing I can guarantee is the young people I've talked to, or the independents and so forth, always tell me this: you don't seem. I always thought you guys are so mean. And we when you talk in terms of choice and control and show how conservatism is choice, liberalism is control, and basically you don't even have to say liberalism is control. That's a given. But you can just say how I want them to have choice. I want you unleashed. I want to invest in your community. You know.
Right.
Why do they hate corporations? Let me tell you why. They don't see corporations as coming into their communities and helping them. They see as corporations wanting to get what they can from them. We need to come to people and show them how we are the side of choice.
Right.
and unleashing them. And people get excited about that.
Sure they do.
Yeah.
Sure they do. I mean, that's what they're always using. Of course, the left is so good at this. They preempt the words.
Right.
They are the pro-choice party.
Which is why we named it the Party of Choice, because we felt very strongly that we have to take that word back and we have to reframe the debate.
It really angers them, and I like that.
Here we spent the last hour talking about how to break down that wall and how to not get them angry.
And then I'm mean.
And then you're mean. I love that. You are real. That's good. That is a very good thing. Where can people find you on the web?
Our website is thepartyofchoice.com. We're on Twitter, Facebook, Google+, and YouTube.
Okay. You're everywhere.
We're kind of everywhere. The fastest way to find us on those is through our website.
Okay. The Party of Choice. And don't forget to put that "the" in.
Right.
Thepartyofchoice.com.
.com.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Are you guys planning any trainings up here?
We need to sit down and look at our schedule and get that going. We're headed to Dallas for the Americans for Prosperity conference next week.
Awesome.
Which we're really excited about. So we haven't even seen each other this week, actually. So we need to sit down with the calendar and find a room and
I know, she's
get
really
it going.
cute. I saw her, and she's like, wow.
Yeah. Hey, I'm married to you. That's really
Wow,
awesome.
I know. We've been swamped. We're hoping to put one together in September, possibly October. We'll see when we can get a major training together.
Fantastic. Well, we need that. We do need that. So, Corey and Andy Pate, thepartyofchoice.com. Thank you guys so much for joining us. The first of many times that I hope that we get a chance to sit down and talk about these issues. Stacey Petty, thank you for co-hosting with me.
Nice to see you. We're going to go grab a meal, aren't we, Chris?
We are going to go grab a meal. And I am Chris Cook. I will be back here tomorrow night at 5 p.m. with Ken Clark, co-hosting in the co-host seat. Until then, good night, Colorado.